All right, guys, it is 7 o'clock. I now call the City Council Caucus meeting to order. Our first item on the agenda for discussion is the front yard fencing amendment. Okay, Mark's going to kick it off.
So, Council, I put the memo that I had circulated back in June. Since then, before I give it over to Councilwoman Fields, just a few updates. PDS did take some guidance from us as we've started this process to find some more visible ways to kind of talk about and communicate and educate the community on how to request a zoning accommodation. So they have created a FAQ. It is currently on their website. That is, I think, a positive step. I reviewed it today. It looks pretty easy to find. I did Google it. It doesn't look like the Google search engines are caching it quite yet. So you would have to know where it is right now as we stand, but some progress has been made on that. Also, Councilman Farmer had tried to get somebody from Swim Life. They would teach education classes to young ones that whether they've got disability or not, it gives them survival skills in the water. So they had intended to be here. They did have to kind of cancel late. I did extend an invitation if they would like to come to a future council meeting. But those are the two updates that I've got right now related to this topic.
All right, so since we met last time, there was another child, 13-year-old Josiah in Phoenix, drowned. He was autistic. And then in Saratoga County, there was a 17-year-old that was from May 20th, Harvey Nagy, also drowned, autistic. So this is sweeping across the country. And the main thing, again, I'm going to reiterate, the people that are already dealing with a child with severe autism, their time is already taken up with dealing with teachers and education and medical appointments and just day-to-day life. They don't have time to do all of this. And if they hire a lawyer to go through all of this, it's going to be way worse for places that did not make it easy for them. So I think we need to be a leader on this and make these changes and let other agencies follow suit. You ready to go?
So I mentioned during the last meeting that I had submitted a pretend request to PDS because I wanted to better understand what the process was, just for my own understanding of applying for a fence in general and then what the steps were. And I talked with Rob Himes and told him that, you know, I was doing this investigatively. And we talked through everything. And I want to share kind of what my ideas are about, I think, the direction that we should go and why. But I do think that this zoning accommodations FAQ is a great place to start, and I think we could definitely incorporate that into what I'm going to mention. So I think we should create a simple, clear document called an application for reasonable accommodation for a front yard fence. And one thing that Ms. Fields and I talked about earlier was that it could really even go beyond that. You could make it an application for reasonable accommodation for other things like a ramp or other things that we may get requests for. This document should explain what information is needed, what documentation is required, and who applicants should contact within the city and PDS to begin the process. I spoke with someone at PDS about this issue, and he explained that a PDS received a request for a front yard fence that included documentation supporting a reasonable accommodation. They would refer that request back to the city administrator and city attorney. He explained that this is not a decision PDS would make because their role is to permit what is already allowed under our existing ordinances. He also explained that the Board of Adjustments would not be the appropriate place for these requests because this is really not a zoning variance issue. A request for a front yard fence when our ordinance doesn't currently allow it would be a request for an accommodation based on disability, and that requires a different type of review. I also don't think the documentation process needs to be overly complicated. A diagnosis or written verification from a medical professional explaining the need for the accommodation should be sufficient. Beyond that, the permit process would follow the existing procedure. I think we have an opportunity here, as Ms. Field said, to create something that can be a model for other Northern Kentucky cities. We need to make this process simple and understandable for families who need to apply. If someone is already dealing with a disability-related need, the last thing we want to do is create unnecessary barriers. We can have a process that protects the city while also being responsive to the needs of our residents.
Do you want me to say something else? So I think that's helpful. I think if we make the process as easy as possible and maybe give recommendations that we would like to see, instead of them coming with us with something that maybe we don't want to see, like maybe we say, so many feet in front of the porch instead of the whole yard, we might have a little bit more control on what we can see happen versus is what it could happen down the road. I think this is coming either way. I mean, the more and more that our community is dealing with us on a daily basis, it's coming either way.
Thank you. So are you planning to write something that we can review on this?
I could do that if you want. I would just want everybody's feedback on something that's acceptable, and so far the feedback I'm getting is no, so I would like to see the next steps on what you guys would be interested in.
I don't think the feedback that you've received is no. I think we've gone through a tremendous amount of research and understanding of what the process is currently, and I think PDS has done a pretty good job of explaining and putting the FAQs together and putting that up on the website. I think there's been an effort, so I don't know if no would be a fair assessment. I think it's right now almost more simple because it comes back to the city administrator. So it is actually super simple.
So why haven't we had any then?
I can't answer why. I can tell you that taking it a step further and codifying that in a text zone, which 2 other Northern Kentucky cities have done. I did reach out to them just to say, has that increased the volume? One of the administrators didn't even know that it existed. The other one said not at all. So I can't answer your question there. What I can say is that we can probably be a little bit more intentional, and I think we've kind of directed PDS to do that right now, just to say, here's what this process is. From our perspective, what we could do is take the same FAQ, put it on our website as well. And to Mayor's point, I mean, I do feel like there is a process in place right now. It may not be super known, but we can take steps to educate the public on what that is right now. And I think we can be a leader in that regard.
I mean, based what Jen already said, when she applied, she said for elopement, and they said that's not a thing. Like, if anybody else had heard that, they would have just stopped and moved on. So I think that's the problem that we're having, is like, we're having a conversation back and forth. We're going back and making sure we're learning additional things. Not everybody's going to do that. So I think we need to be very clear about saying, hey, this is what we expect, this is what we need, and this is a reasonable thing that would happen if that happens. I mean, what's the process for getting like the signs that say deaf child in the area? I mean, there's got to be a process for that. This is the same kind of thing. So this one, I mean, like, if we had a form where all of these kind of reasonable accommodations for handicapped people was all together in one place, then what the process would be to do that, I think that opens it up.
definitely think we're trending in that direction without any legislation at all. So I do think that this conversation has been fruitful to that end. To Councilman Hermes' point, I think it would be a good next step would maybe to take a straw poll here, try to get some feedback externally or here in this meeting now, and then present something that we can kind of package up and have everybody discuss. So happy to, take feedback from you on that.
Hey, Mark, is it possible to pull this up? Do you guys have this document, the zoning accommodations? What is a reasonable accommodation relating to zoning, and, kind of walking through that process and what law governs it, that it's, federally protected? It's a really good document on how to get the proper information. I think, kind of broadcasting this might be the best way to get the word out if the goal is to try and increase the number of accommodations that we're making.
So I just have one question. To your knowledge, has anyone been turned down?
I don't think anybody knows this is even a thing. I've looked online, and I'm pretty active in the autism community online, and all these little reports of all these children drowning, and every time I mention a front yard fence accommodation, people say, I tried to get one in a different zone, and they were turned down. Or, we didn't know that was a thing, we just paid $10,000 to put in a fence, and we were told we couldn't have a front yard fence. So people are being told this isn't a thing. Whether or not it's getting to the proper, I think that's the problem, is so like when she said elopement, they automatically said, nope, not a thing. But I think it's like, we've had several meetings and several of these, and there's been a lot of push. I'm not worried about my granddaughter being able to get one. That's not what I'm thinking. Like, this isn't just for her. This is for everybody.
And I don't think there's been pushback. I don't know what but I have struggled understanding what the ask is, because when I look at the current process, it seems fairly simple, but I hear what you're saying, that people might not even be able to get to the process that is simple because of almost a lack of an educational piece. And I will say that, and I'm sorry, I don't know what elopement is. What is elopement? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. But I'm curious, like who analyzed that fake application at PDS? Do we know? Do we have any paper trail on that?
Yeah, we have a full write-up of the exact day and time and what was responded to. I can pass this along. Do we want to put this up?
I'm happy to share what my experience was.
Yeah,
You don't have to-
I'm curious.
Yeah,
Well, this is from Rob.
I understand
directly,
that,
'cause
but
he
do you
was-
not want to hear it from my perspective as the person who was actually submitting the application? Excuse me?
We did hear from you.
I know, I said I submitted
so-
it. That's all I said.
Okay.
Do you, okay, I'll not share from a parent's perspective.
Oh, Jennifer, you can share. Go ahead. No, you share, and we'll put this up on the screen.
I was trying to put myself in the shoes of a person who was a parent applying for this, not from a PDS perspective who already knows what the process is. Rob was extremely helpful. I'm not trying to criticize the fact that he provided you all notes, but I'm not sure that he would have known to call me back if someone probably didn't give him a heads up. I think someone from the city must have called and said, hey, you need to make a phone call to this person, because...
So it seems like, though...
Can I finish?
But you stopped, so I just thought we were looking for a response. PDS follows up on all their applications
I got a follow-up
very
by...
quickly.
I didn't say they didn't.
Yeah.
I got an email that said, initially, we don't allow front yard fences. Then I got another email after our meeting when I said that I submitted the application from Rob. And I'm not saying that he wouldn't have followed up, but he specifically said, I want to make sure that there's not something else that we need to get from you. And to me, it sounded like he was coached on what to ask me. So I'm not saying that he definitely was. I'm saying that the process didn't exist before, and now all of a sudden we have an FAQ because of questions that have been asked. And I don't think the process existed because no one's ever asked for it. I don't know that any have been denied because there wasn't any to deny. I don't know if anybody ever requested a front yard fence for this specific reason. And I think my ask is that we create the application. My ask has never been, and I don't want to speak for Ms. Fields, but my ask has never been to create any additional legislation. My ask has never been to change any zoning at all. It is simply awareness and a process that is an internal process. And that parents understand what hoops to jump through. As I said before, and as Ms. Fields has said, these parents are dealing with enough. We don't need to have them submit an application online, be told no, and then a couple of days later they get a call, oh, by the way, we could do this if you have, why don't we just create a document that goes to them in the very beginning? So when they call the city building and they say, I want to submit a front yard fence application because of this, then we have an application that says, here's our application for all reasonable accommodations. And whether it's a deaf child sign or a ramp for a wheelchair, anything, there's no reason why we shouldn't have that. I'm not asking for any legislative action at all.
So, I mean, originally I was asking for legislation, but based off what you guys were saying, I understand that. But I still think we need something that makes it more clear. And with no insult, but if it's up to you and you forget it, but you don't know what elopement is, that is kind of problematic. So that's why I'm saying we should automatically.
You assume that I wouldn't look the word up before I said something about it, right?
No, I'm not saying that I assume
Well, a little
anything.
bit. You're kind of assuming that, but I'm trying to be argumentative. I mean, if I look at a word and I don't know what it means or I don't know what it is, I'm certainly sensitive enough to know what the ADA is, and I'm going to talk to someone who knows what they're talking about. The idea that somehow these decisions would be made in a vacuum is frankly very insulting. But continue.
I don't know how to answer that other than it is up to you all and you don't know what it is, so we're making it more aware of what it is.
And I do think there needs to be better education and awareness of everyone
That's what
who
I'm
touches all of this. I agree completely with that.
That is what I'm saying, because we are in a situation where this is going to keep going. We need to have a plan in place for autistic children that are getting loose, because we run all of the emergency services that would be out there looking for them. This is going to take a lot of time and dollars for the city, and all I'm saying is we should spend the time and dollars on the forefront and have a plan in place, just like we would with any other emergency situation, so that way going forward, we don't have to try and catch it on the back end and be on national news for not having been successful.
Yes.
First of all, I think Mr. Gatlin owes Ms. Fields an apology because he has interrupted her several times tonight, and to talk to her like you just did is extremely disrespectful. Second of all, elopement was discussed as a term multiple times during the last 2 meetings that we've had that we've discussed this. So I do think that by now we should all have a pretty good understanding of what that word means. And I don't mean that in an insulting way, but you said, I don't know what it means because I've never heard it before, and we've been talking about it.
I don't need to comment about what elopement means or what elopement doesn't mean. I mean, if we've reached the point here as a city where we're going to put in little Easter eggs of words that some of us know or don't know, and we'll mention them a few times, and we'll come back in a gotcha moment three meetings later, we've really sunk pretty low as a city. I didn't mean to lose my temper with you. I try to keep a very low self, very low-key attitude. I was just frustrated by the assumption that somehow if Mark Collier and I received an application, if there was some part of that we didn't know. I mean, we do a very good job on issues in the city of trying to look into it, have a better understanding of the things. I mean, we face issues every day that we don't always know the answer to. That's all I meant by that.
it was not an insult against you. A lot of people don't know what it is. Even in the autistic community, they don't know what it is. When she originally asked for the application, she did not say autism, she said elopement, and they did not know what it was. So that's what I'm saying is, no insult to you. But if we can't even know that we're using the right verbiage, that when they're asking for it, we're not understanding what they're asking, we have an issue that needs to be solved already.
Right, and I guess I would also ask, as a part of the educational piece, that the technical jargon or the words of, what would the term be? Basically, the terms of art, such as elopement. If someone in an application made it a little simpler for people who aren't as educated on those issues to understand, that would be helpful as well, right? Like, I have an autistic child that is dealing with X, Y, Z, or whatever it is. Does that make sense? Like,
I would say, from you being a lawyer, you use terms quite frequently that are normal for you that other people don't understand.
I understand. I got you
I
on
would
that.
say, in the autistic community, we kind of think people know what they're talking about since it's on the news almost nightly. It's not an insult. It's just
No, I hear you. I understand.
like,
We're
there's
aware
a-
of the terms around us and of our situation. I understand
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And so
understand.
if we had like key phrases or, make it public. I mean, we've had the reporters here before when we were talking about this, and they didn't even mention it.
Yeah.
So like, we've had this multiple times in this area, and we're getting no publicity over it, no knowledge. It's like it's automatically pushed
Sure.
down and pushed aside. So if we want to do something proactively, and that's what I'm saying, is this shouldn't be something that we're doing just because of one person or one thing. It should be something we're doing to keep our citizens safe in a way that in which we find acceptable. That's all I'm asking for.
Tyson.
Thank you. I mean, I don't have an autistic child, so all I can do is empathize on this. But everything has been so vague on this so far that I'm struggling to try to understand exactly what we're trying to gain here. So I guess I'd like to just clarify a few things. I assume that if somebody is looking for a front yard fence, that they already have a backyard fence and maybe a side fence. And I see Mrs. Jasper Lucas shaking her head. So, I mean, I think that should probably be a requirement, that if someone's allowed to have a front yard fence, that they should also be able to keep a child from running out the back door into the lake or pond or pool or whatever, or a side yard, or through a garage door, or whatever it might be. So, I mean, again, I don't necessarily completely understand. If somebody told me that we needed to keep a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 30-year-old from going out the front door, I can guarantee you I can make it so that they can't get out the front door. I can go to Lowe's, for $5 and stop a 5-year-old from going out a front door. I can guarantee it. So
I'm going to stop you right there because Elon Musk was
He needs to
autistic.
finish.
I know, but
No, you're interrupting him, and we're trying to not interrupt people, so.
So it's hard for me to understand that. I think the issue with front yard fences is that there's a lot of people that don't like them or that don't want to see them. But right now, we don't allow it. And I think that it should be the responsibility of the homeowner, that they should be able to make sure they keep, because I mean, it seems like it's a cage, or it's a second line of defense or something, or it's something to slow a child down, while a parent can go and try to catch them. I think it should be part of the backyard and any other door that goes outside. I don't understand the difference in the front door. So that would help me understand. And I think it would probably help, I mean, if Mrs. Fields, if you put something in writing, instead of just leaving things open that we have to assume things for those of us who aren't experienced with it.
I supplied with this much writing already. I don't know if you bothered to read any of it. And I do understand that the reason we're not discussing backyard fences is because it's not an issue. We already allow that. So it's a waste of our time to discuss things we already allow. And number two, the assumption that you could outsmart an autistic 5-year-old means you have not dealt with a lot of autistic 5-year-olds, because Elon Musk is autistic. There are a lot of kids that have elopement, live in their own world, but are extremely clever at problem solving and figuring things out. And if you have a situation like my situation with my granddaughter, she's going to quickly be taller than her mother. She is very tall. So if you have a situation where the mother can reach it, that doesn't mean that the child can't reach it also. So yeah, it is a containment issue, but my main thing is, did you read any of the documentations that were supplied to you all?
This was via email? I did not read it all.
I mean, it has been there. And I mean, we've had her in here. You could have asked when she was in here and what it was like. She couldn't even sit in the chairs with her because she would have ran. If you have any more specific questions, I would be glad to help you and answer those questions. But the reasons I'm not wasting your time with the backyard fence, I think that's a waste of time. I would assume also that when they're doing that, they probably are doing a backyard fence. But it's neither here nor there.
I guess I just don't understand the difference.
We don't allow front yard fences, which is
No.
why we're having a conversation.
But you're saying you would allow someone to have a front yard fence and not have a backyard fence already?
I am not saying either way. All I'm saying is we should allow front yard fences. I don't know what that specific house has in place for a backyard situation. All I'm saying is currently they could be completely contained in the backyard and walk right out the front yard. That doesn't do anything.
Right, I get that. And I guess I'm saying it's vice versa. So, I mean, like, you're saying that we should make it easier for someone to get a front yard fence, but they may not have a backyard fence, and the child can still roam freely right out the back of the house, while we've made these special accommodations for them to have a front yard fence.
I mean, I could come up with a whole lot of things in this thing, like
Well,
they
I'm
should
just saying,
have doors and locks and all those
It would be a pretty
things.
easy thing to
But-
say, that, that would be a pretty easy part of the approval process, to say that, like, you've already done something to,
I have no problem with that requirement, if that's what you're asking.
okay.
But what I am saying is it's not something I bothered bringing up or mentioning because it felt like a waste of time.
Right, okay, thank you.
So Michelle, would you be able to, like if you're looking for a particular like application, would you be able to just write like some basics, like what you would see as limiting of a barrier as possible, because you are the expert in this topic. So if you could give us just just what you would envision the process looking like. Like if it could be in any way that you want it to be, if you could document that, that'd be super helpful. So then we're not trying to guess and, throwing darts blindly. I mean, if you have this idea, if you write it down, we'll make it happen. Nobody's telling you no. We can get this done. Okay? Yes.
I just want to explain why I don't need a backyard fence. I don't have a backyard. I have a deck in my entire backyard. I have zero need for a backyard fence. However, if I had an autistic child, I would have 100% need for a front yard fence. So I'm your prime example. My deck was permitted, and it takes up my entire backyard because my backyard's very small. There's no need for me to have a backyard. So I put a deck across the entire back of my house, which takes up the entire backyard. I could put a gate at the end, which is not going to need any permits, and there's my enclosure. So I don't need a backyard fence. I don't think we should require a backyard fence if somebody wants a front yard fence. And again, nobody's saying we need to allow front yard fences. All we're saying is make the process easy for someone to get a reasonable accommodation that is already available to them. All we're saying is simplify the process. Make the process very clear and very easy. And I just want to say again, Ms. Fields has provided an abundance of information. If I'm insulted for her that you all have sat here and said you didn't provide us anything in writing. She's provided us so much in writing and so much information about this that I'm shocked that people are sitting here saying, I don't understand, I can't understand this, because you didn't read it.
It's not the research that we are asking for. I think it's, do you believe that it is clear what I'm asking for?
I think what you're asking for is very
No, I'm
clear.
asking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Michelle.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just didn't want to waste time making something unless we were on the same page about what we were creating.
No.
I am on the same
Yeah.
page, and I am okay with that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay. All right. We have Scott Sally in the house with street safety presentation. If you want to take the podium, and there's a green sticker on that little microphone. There you go. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is my first council meeting. Very exciting.
Welcome.
So I have some handouts. Can I pass those out to everyone? Am I still on? Okay. So, good evening, council members, mayor, everyone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Scott Sally. I live at 4076 Sherborne Drive, and that's near the entrance to Sherborne subdivision. Some of you might be familiar. I'm a full-time firefighter and paramedic with the city of Cincinnati, where I've served for the past 20 years. Before entering the fire service, I earned a degree in civil engineering from the University of Cincinnati. I worked for the Ohio Department of Transportation and 2 consulting firms specializing in roadway design, residential site development, and traffic engineering. Because of that background, I've spent my career looking at public safety from 2 different perspectives. One, designing roads to prevent accidents. The other, responding when those accidents happen. I've seen firsthand what can happen when known hazards are left unaddressed. This evening, I'd like to share some of my concerns regarding traffic safety in Sherborne. I respectfully ask the city to consider proactive steps in addressing these concerns before someone is seriously injured or killed. Sherborne Drive, as you can see on the map on the right, is approximately 1 mile long with 10 intersecting side streets, but only 1 stop sign along the entire roadway. Posted speed limit is 25 miles per hour. Since streets completed construction last fall, our neighborhood has grown from more than 300 homes with only 1 entrance and exit. According to the 2025 traffic data provided by the city of Erlanger, approximately 2,000 vehicles travel through Sherborne every day. With the neighborhood home construction complete, traffic volume is the highest that it's ever been. Speeding has also become much more of a problem. The area of greatest concern is the blind hill in the lower section nearest 4068 Sherborne. This is the original front section that only includes 23 houses. The upper section is separated by a very long, steep hill. Vehicles that are travel downhill from the upper portion of the subdivision frequently exceed the speed limit. They carry these speeds through the front of the neighborhood as they crest the blind hill. Drivers have very limited visibility while they're traveling at such high speeds. Drivers cannot adequately see vehicles entering or leaving driveways. They cannot see pedestrians crossing the road, parked vehicles, or even oncoming traffic until it's too late to react. I've personally witnessed and experienced numerous near collisions in this area. Another issue involves pedestrians. Residents on the south side of Sherborne, of Lower Sherborne, I should say, who want to access the Doe Run Nature Trail across the street, currently have no safe crossing location nearby. This trail is a standout feature of Sherborne. Families with children must either walk nearly a quarter mile to reach a safe, controlled crossing up the hill, or cross near the lower section where vehicle speed and visibility is at its worst. Most understandably, choose the shorter route. Unfortunately, it's also the most dangerous one. Last year, after meeting with City Administrator Peter Glenn, the city initiated a traffic study and installed speed monitoring equipment throughout Sherborne. I truly appreciate the city's willingness to take a proactive approach to my concerns. Following numerous requests from the residents, Erlanger Police also increased enforcement efforts. They work. Temporarily, they do work. However, enforcement alone is not a permanent solution to what is fundamentally a roadway design and traffic calming problem. The traffic data collected near the lower section of Sherborne showed that approximately 71% of drivers exceeded the posted speed limit. Speeds of greater than 50 miles an hour were recorded. This is in a residential neighborhood in an area with limited sight distance and visibility. The study also found that the 85th percentile speed to be 31 miles per hour near the lower section of Sherborne. For those unfamiliar with that term, the 85th percentile speed is a standard engineering measurement used nationwide to evaluate how traffic is actually operating. This data is used with other factors such as pedestrian traffic, children, visibility obstructions such as a blind hill, which limit sight distance. Average speed can be very misleading. A street with an average speed of 20 miles per hour might look safe on paper, but it can also mask very dangerous drivers if the remaining speeds are heavily polarized, meaning that half are going 15 miles per hour, the other half are doing 55 miles per hour. This is why the 85th percentile is preferred. Many communities consider traffic calming measures when the 85th percentile value exceeds the posted speed limit by 5 miles an hour. In this case, it's exceeding it by 6 miles per hour. Monitoring locations further up Sherborne, which I really haven't gotten into a lot, recorded even higher operating speeds, which should warrant a closer look. Based on these findings, I respectfully recommend that the city retain an independent traffic engineering consultant to evaluate the entire length of Sherborne Drive, including the area of Twin Ridge and Eagle Edge. That evaluation should include vehicle speeds, sight distance, roadway geometry, pedestrian safety, intersection safety, and appropriate traffic calming measures. This evaluation would provide an objective recommendation and help ensure that any improvements are based on sound engineering principles. In addition, I would like to propose several practical and very low-cost improvements for your consideration. Number one, reduce the neighborhood speed from 25 miles per hour to 20. If Erlanger is considering lowering the residential speed citywide in the future, Sherborne could serve as an excellent pilot neighborhood because construction is complete and the traffic concerns are already well documented. Number 2, install a marked crosswalk and a stop sign near the crest and the blind hill in the lower section, along with solar-powered flashing warning lights. This would dramatically improve pedestrian safety, provide a safe crossing to the Doe Run Nature Trail, reduce vehicle speeds at the most hazardous location in the neighborhood, and make it much safer for residents to enter and exit their driveways. Number 3, relocate the existing parking sign near 4077 Sherborne to its proper location on the lower property line of 4077 and 4081, as specified by the Mayor's Executive Order 2014-60. Moving this sign would shift parked vehicles approximately 30 feet further from the blind hill. This would improve visibility for drivers turning into nearby driveways. It would also remove the hazard of vehicles passing parked cars on a blind hill, emergency vehicles and snowplows included. If a stop sign were ultimately placed near this location, there may not be a need to relocate the misplaced sign because the primary safety concern would be substantially reduced. Number 4, in regards to the upper section of Sherborne, please consider installing additional stop signs at 2 intersections, Sherborne and Twin Ridge and Eagle Ledge. Both intersections suffer from limited visibility, and the Twin Ridge and Eagle Ledge intersection is frequently used by children crossing the street. It's a highly populated area with a lot of children, bicycles, scooters, and whatnot, and lots of complaints from neighbors. Number 5, although speed humps, traffic tables, have not traditionally been favored in Erlanger, the large hill presents a very unique opportunity. There are no homes immediately adjacent to that section of roadway, making it an ideal location to reduce downhill speeds before vehicles reach the populated front portion of the subdivision. In closing, I respectfully ask City Council to review the raw traffic data, commission a comprehensive engineering analysis, visit Sherborne in person, drive it, walk it, and consider implementing these practical safety improvements. Public safety and pedestrian access to parks can definitely be improved through this initiative. My concern is not whether a serious incident could happen, but whether we will take reasonable steps now to prevent it from happening. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your continued service to Erlanger.
Thank you, Scott. I got a couple of comments for you. So I love your idea of reducing the neighborhood speed limit.
It's difficult to hear you, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I love your idea of reducing the neighborhood speed limit from 25 to 20. I think Peter Glenn has told me, I don't even know how many times, how he wishes that all of the residential streets, like the subdivision streets, were 15 miles an hour. So in Cold Spring, where he's a resident, they are 15 miles an hour. And to do something citywide like that is a tremendous change. We just recently changed Narrows from 35 down to 25, and there's been, it's been a huge change, I'll just say that. And we added two different stop signs, like 4-way stops. So it's been a change. However, it was recommended by our city engineer when we did the traffic engineering analysis, and it's hard to not take those recommendations when they are coming from the experts. That leads me to my second point. I love your idea of doing the independent, the comprehensive traffic engineering study for Sherborne. And what I can do tomorrow is figure out how much it's going to cost with VOX. They've done it before for us, and it can be easily added into our existing road budget to be able to figure out, is there a change that needs to take place? I would want, I do like your ideas of the increasing the stop signs at Sherborne Drive and Twin Ridge and Eagle Ledge, but it might be really good opportunity if the city engineer is saying that as well, to have those two opinions and the recommendations to the city. I just want to commend you on your detailed analysis. Like, this is spectacular. Do you want to run for mayor and run for council?
I am so completely out of my comfort zone,
This is superb.
but I worked really hard on putting this together.
No, I really appreciate the amount of effort and intention that went behind this. It truly is spectacular. So what I can do tomorrow is talk to VIOX and talk about the comprehensive traffic engineering study.
Okay.
Because I think that's valid. And, I do want to, just the timing of the speed study that we did, I'm wondering if it was before or after we did the traffic calming at the park. I'm trying to remember. So where
This would have been,
I think it might have been before the park was open.
the park might have been completed already, because I remember thanking Peter
Okay.
for his hard work, especially with the island.
Okay. I'll double check on that when we did that traffic study.
Yeah, that definitely could have affected some of the speed sensors on top of the hill.
Yeah, I just wonder if that made any kind of impact to that area, and are we seeing a slowdown at the park due to, that was, Peter's thought process was, reduce the width of that street, and it's going to automatically calm the speeds when you're going through that park-like atmosphere. So I just wonder if there was actually a change.
That would be worth
Okay.
another study, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I just wanted to thank you as well for doing all of this. I did have a question, and the mayor brought up the road divider. Do you think that has helped or not, the road divider by the park? Do you think that has helped the speed or not?
I don't know that it's really slowed anybody down, considering that it's already 50, 75 feet from a stop sign. I think it does provide, a sense of awareness, or as Peter Glenn said, a sense of place.
I think it slows people down right there. I don't know that, but like you said, there's already a stop sign right there.
Yeah.
People are already having to slow down there. But I think coming the other direction, it has helped some.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I wanted to mention, like Scott said, the city has not previously been really in favor of speed humps. However, I think his suggestion here about putting it in the hill area where there are no houses is a good idea. I know that's not a very popular opinion around here, but I think that if we're gonna try it anywhere, I think that would be an ideal place to do it. I have also received lots of requests for these stop signs in these exact locations. I think there's probably other places that may need stop signs in Sherborne, but these specific locations are definitely two that I have personally gotten requests from. So, but thank you.
So just final thoughts on the big picture is my neighbors, they're not bad people. They're not bad people speeding. It's the layout of the neighborhood. It's the geography from going from the highly populated upper down a steep hill. And unless you are thinking about it, you are going to pick up to 35, 40 miles an hour. You have to be on your brakes. It's that steep. I don't know how else to slow people down. I really don't. You know, you can go on the Facebook pages, social media, and beg people, and everybody will agree, oh yeah, we have to slow down, but it just happens by nature. I've done it. So I'm asking the city, please, something.
How do you think, I mean, I know this is just hypothetical, but how do you think the overall mentality would be if we did reduce the speed limit from 25 to 20 or from 25 to 15 and did it, as you're saying, as like a tester? I mean, are we going to enrage, 75% of Sherborne?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I think the majority
legit-
of people would, I'm sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, that's okay. I just was worried that it would be like a legit, like,
Yeah. So you're asking what would be the response from the neighborhood?
yeah, from
Yeah.
who you've talked to. I'm assuming you've had.
Well, you have two different areas. You've got the lower area who, everyone down there wants something done to slow traffic down.
Yeah.
It is dangerous. It's not just a speed, but it is a speed and sight distance issue. You can see in the packet, just backing out of the driveway, I mean, cars come flying over that hill. And if you're not looking at the right time, you just hope they see you. But to answer your question, I think the overall neighborhood would be in favor of anything that improves neighborhood safety.
Okay.
There's people that are going to complain. No, nobody wants more stop signs. Nobody wants to take an extra 2 minutes to exit the neighborhood. But I think everybody's adjusting to bright leaf and narrows, and that's great. That's great.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much for all of this, and I will reach out.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have one more question?
Oh, I'll just make a comment. This is fantastic, and I've had people reach out to me for 10 years about the concerns in Sherborne, and as it continues to develop, it only becomes more problematic with this. So, I'm glad that there's going to be a conversation about going to VOX. I can tell you with the Narrows Road, they took every recommendation, regardless of feedback. So even if they have a workshop, it's probably going to be 50-50 with the people of Sherborne, but the city will likely take the recommendation of VOX because that's exactly what they did on Narrows, regardless of the feedback. So
Good.
just keep that in mind. It could work out in your favor.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Scott. All right. Next item on the agenda is the mayor and council pay. Mr. Hermes?
Thank you, Mayor. I made some revisions to the proposed ordinance, and I think that was included in the packet. So I'd be happy to listen to any comments on that.
I do have a comment, a couple of them. First, I think that I'm not sure why the qualifications of the mayor position is listed in this ordinance. And also, I'm asking for my name to be removed from this ordinance. I wasn't aware, usually names aren't, your name is in there as well. 2 names aren't usually on ordinance, they're usually in minutes. But I'm asking my name be removed from your ordinance you drafted.
Okay.
My one first, okay. I'm going to start by saying that my opposition is not necessarily about the mayor's compensation. It's about the fact that this ordinance is poorly written. There's absolutely no reason, as Ms. Nicely said, that any council member should be named in an ordinance. Naming a person who came up with an idea or made a suggestion belongs in the minutes of a meeting, not an ordinance. The whereas clauses state that the position, quote, requires someone who has an understanding of local government operations and goes on to describe a person who is capable of running a large organization and who possesses executive leadership skills, budget knowledge, familiarity with balance sheets, revenue sources, county services, utilities, and community organizations. It further states that these qualities justify the proposed salary increase. The background, capabilities, and qualities of a person elected to mayor should be decided by the voters, not by council. While I understand that the intent may be to explain the rationale behind the salary increase, I believe the language is problematic because it reads less like a justification for compensation and more like a list of qualifications for the office. Kentucky law already establishes the legal qualifications for serving as mayor. I do not believe it's appropriate for this council to adopt language that could be interpreted as creating additional expectations or qualifications beyond those established by state law. Even if these statements are not legally binding, they become part of the legislative record and may create unnecessary confusion for future candidates and future councils. This language could also be seen as an attempt to intimidate those who wish to run in the future. If the purpose of this ordinance is solely to adjust compensation, then the ordinance should focus on compensation. It does not need to describe the type of person who should hold the office or suggest what experience or background someone ought to have to be an effective mayor. Our ordinances should be clear, narrowly tailored, and avoid language that could be construed as adding qualifications for elected office where none exist in state law.
Duly noted. Mrs. Reckers?
So I read through your notes and additions to the ordinance, and again, as stated, none of it's necessary, right? The objective is to potentially increase the mayor pay and marginally increase city council. So I took it upon myself to write competing legislation, omitting all of the nonsense that you added. This recommendation is to move the mayor's pay to $22,000 from $15,000, which is a 46.67% increase from the previous year, and the council pay from $4,468 and change to $4,800 even, which would be a 7.43% increase over the previous salary. So this is my recommendation from the document we were provided. This is really nobody's battle but yours to think. This is the legislative item you keep bringing up over and over and over again. This is just my proposal. It is based off of, reasonable comparison to other mayor council forms of, as a form of government, neighboring cities, in our particular, ad district in our particular area. We're not going to compare ourselves to Cumberland or even Ryland Heights. It's not appropriate to do that, but it's more than fair. And I had said earlier in the year when this dialogue was ongoing early on that because of our population size and offerings that we have from a staff standpoint, that the salary should not exceed that of independents. So that is why I came up with the number of 22. Again, it's a 46.67% increase from the previous salary, whereas the proposed at $27,000 would be an 80% increase. So take it or leave it. I'm indifferent. I would be happy to present this as a competing legislation in the next meeting and see where the cards fall. I'm open to any discussion as well.
Ms. Nicely.
As I've mentioned in the past, I know this wouldn't go in effect till 2029 for council and 2031 for the mayor. My suggestion is table it now and bring it up. There will be new council members coming into January 1st into after the new election, and they would have time to bring this subject back up and go from there. I suggest we table it, and we've noted before that we weren't interested in passing anything through at this time, so my recommendation is not to do anything right now.
Ms. Fields.
My biggest issue with it, I like yours. Yours is nice. There was an overall tone of non-teamwork, saying one person was more important than the rest of the team, which the mayor is the most important. I get that. But I think we should set a tone of teamwork for our city. So instead of making it to where one person gets everything and it's because the other people are eliminated, I just think that was a bad tone to put to it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wanted to make it completely clear why I was proposing what I was proposing and not a higher amount that would be more comparable to a lot of the other cities that were evaluated. But I just want to make one thing clear. I mean, I know, Mrs. Reckers, you mentioned that I keep bringing it up and keep bringing it up. And let's not forget that a majority of this council's decided to table this a number of times as well, at least 5 times. Over the last year. So that's why it keeps coming up. If we could just have the discussion and either say we're putting it to bed or we're going to pass something, I really appreciate that you've put this forward. And I can't thank you enough. And I think that that should be enough to either move it forward or put it to bed. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll put Ms. Recker's legislation on. That's kind of like the vibe that I'm hearing, and if you voted up, you voted down, there you go. Cool. All right. Next item on the agenda for discussion is rules and procedures of meetings for city council. Are you, I'm sorry? Yeah, are you going to take this?
I can. I mean, it's been sent out to everyone. I didn't get any emails from anybody asking for any changes. I explained what my reasoning was. I took into consideration what we talked about at the last caucus meeting about it, and then I feel like I incorporated that into my proposed changes. I think I would like to go ahead and just have a first reading of it at our next council meeting. But I'm open to, if anybody wants to mention any suggestions at this meeting to make changes. I'm happy to hear them now, but like I said, I didn't hear from anyone after that meeting and after this went out, so.
Just for clarification, we'll do it as a municipal order because that's what it currently is.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Okay.
no, you're fine. So all I plan on doing is just taking what you have here and then just putting it in a municipal order.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever, however we need to do it. But do you need anything else from me? I mean, I sent the document.
No.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Let's see here. Last item for discussion is Eon's Adventure Park Memorandum of Understanding. Jack Catlin.
Yeah, and I apologize for the delay in getting this out. This was a little more challenging than I thought. And I know you guys just got this tonight, and I do apologize for that. I think that this is the good first step, which kind of memorializes the understanding between Eon's Preserve, Inc. and the city of Erlanger. I think that there will be, the way I would envision this is at August's meeting, we would adopt this by municipal order. And then as I think things come up, which is kind of dictated in this memorandum of understanding, there's going to be additional potential municipal orders or resolutions, or however we want to characterize them, that would come back up in front of council as different projects, issues, donations actually go into the Eon's nonprofit, which then would be shifted to the city of Erlanger. So again, I know that you all just have this document tonight. I'd be glad to take questions tonight. I'd also be very, very glad to just respond either by email or phone call, text, whatever, over the next couple weeks. Yes?
Can this be emailed to us?
I will absolutely email
Thank
it out.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Mr. Hermes?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gatlin. I guess my general question would be, what is council's role in this? Are you thinking that there would be a memorandum of, or I mean,
Yeah, a municipal order
that would say that
approving this. Yeah, and it's one of those things, and that's why I've struggled a little bit with this. This is, I kind of see this similar to the any other kind of joint local agreement or any type of interlocal agreement. Difference with this is we don't have to have this one blessed by the Department of Government because it's not an agreement between two government entities, right? It's an agreement between a nonprofit and a government entity. So the other thing is we're probably doing this in an abundance of caution. I mean, if you notice, some of the focus I have on this was a little bit of a concern of bidding issues. Because the nonprofit is not going to be subject to bidding. So here's an example. John Smith wants to donate whatever, $100,000 to Eons, and he wants his contractor to do the project, or maybe it's his company, maybe he is a contractor, right? So I was just wanting to make sure that we could not violate any kind of bidding law, so we actually did a fair amount of research on that to make sure that there would be no issues, and I think where my comfort level is with that, and I think it's very clear actually under the law, is the city's not necessarily the one engaged in that bidding, right? It's the whole idea of bidding is to get lowest and best price and to be fair to the taxpayer. So if we're getting something for free, I don't see how there's any spirit of the law being broken there if the person who's giving it to us for free is not necessarily utilizing a bidding process. So there's just a lot of little nuances like that. Kara and I have had several conversations about just ways to make sure that our auditors are comfortable with how we handle all this, right? That's really very important. And this is probably a living, breathing document that as we stumble upon things that come up over the next 6 to 12 months, which are all good things, we probably say, hey, we probably need to now incorporate that. We probably need to deal with that issue. But yes, I would see it adopted by municipal order next Tuesday or whenever we meet again. Yes.
I just have a quick question, and it may be in the document, but since I didn't have time to read it all, and so I just want to go ahead and ask something.
Sure.
Is this going to be the Eons Preserve can only dictate what goes on private property, or will they be able to build, say we put the brakes in, maybe we don't have funding and we have to stop one section. Can the Eons Preserve come and build on city property, or are they just able to build on private property?
So this does deal with that because there are scenarios, and I think there's a couple things that are in the works right now where there will be donations coming from Eons Preserve that will be on city property, and this makes it very clear that that becomes city property. Okay, so again, let's just do a hypothetical. Let's say a playground is being donated, okay? And I'm not saying a playground is being donated. I'm totally using hypotheticals. But let's say a playground is being donated. That playground, even though it would come through Eons Preserve, now becomes the city of Erlanger property as soon as that goes on the city of Erlanger. And I wanted to make that very clear and make sure Eons Preserve Inc. understood that, and also make sure the donors understand that anything they put on city property becomes the ownership, frankly, responsibility also of the city. So another part of this agreement, because another understanding that I think some of these donors have is if they are going to be donating some type of amenity that might require maintenance, we're going to have to enter separate maintenance agreements potentially with Eons Preserve Inc. to help offset and deal with that maintenance of that amenity. And I'm not intentionally speaking vague on this, I'm just not in the weeds on what's going on with Eons Preserve. And I think there's a lot of wonderful things that are going on. And I just think we will see probably every couple of meetings something else that's going to kind of come up that probably will require ratification of council. We're really kind of at the first inning of a lot of this. Yes, ma'am.
Is there another entity that we have a similar agreement with, or has there been one in the past?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Not the Historical Society?
That's a good point. I don't know if we have any formal agreements with the Historical Society, but I will look into that.
I'm just looking for something to.
On the memorandum of understanding.
Yeah, we did. We did have one.
We did.
Okay. Yes, okay. Is that the only one that you can think of, Sherry? Okay. If there's any others, I'm just curious.
Do we have a similar document for the other parcels that aren't necessarily our property, but the park will be, like, do we have one of these with Duke or like the Corporex land or anything? Is that necessary to be?
Right now, none of that is, like, I would envision, see, I think that's a separate issue, right? So let's say that SD1 or Corporex incorporate some of their land into this park. I would see a separate agreement with those entities as it relates to the maintenance. Now, might it route through Eons Preserve Inc. as well? Maybe. But I know in a lot of those early discussions we had with SD1 and Corporex a while back, I think they're going to be dictating a little bit of those agreements because I think it's their land, it's their property, right? And then I think what we'll be entering into would be potentially maintenance agreements or other memorandum of understandings as it relates to what our role would be on their property.
Yeah,
but at this point, there's really been nothing beyond conference room hypotheticals on that issue.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a little more detail. So Eons Preserve is, the purpose of it is to take in easements of property that is not owned by the city of Erlanger, that may or may not be even located in the city of Erlanger. So this valley crosses over into Crescent Springs and Villa Hills. So we have potential land donors that want to be able to donate their land into the preserve, and that would be a preserve topic, not, we wouldn't have a donation of land that's in the city of Villa Hills into the city of Erlanger. That wouldn't make sense. That's the whole point of why we have to have the Eons Preserve nonprofit, so that we have the mechanism to be able to take on those easements, take on those land donations. That's truly, truly the whole purpose of the preserve.
Yeah, I think that's right, because, I mean, we talked about creating a nonprofit several years ago when this whole idea came about, probably for two purposes. One, allow a vehicle for people to make donations that got their tax write-off, and two, to have some permanency to this potential donated land of SD1 and or Corporex or other entities that might be out there.
Yeah, ultimately, the goal, long term, I have no idea how long this would take, but would be that the Eons Preserve nonprofit is paying for the maintenance of the park in totality, and that, whether it's a new amenity or the maintenance of an existing amenity or an upgrade or whatever it is, the preserve, the nonprofit, and outside donations, they are the ones that are taking on those responsibilities and not using taxpayer dollars. The whole point of the nonprofit is to get away from using taxpayer dollars to create and sustain this park. That is truly the goal of the nonprofit. How do we create something that lasts far longer than any of us on this planet, and that it is preserved for eons and eons? Yes.
And one more question. Ed, we mentioned that the nonprofit would set aside some money for maintenance. What about, we'll be getting more calls that will need first responders, public works for cleanup, and I know some will be Erlanger if it's on other properties, maybe Villa Hills or whatever. Will there be some money set aside in case we have to hire more first responders or more public works to help work the park? Will there be money set aside for that as well?
Let me articulate, maybe I misspoke there. I think there will be situations where donors to Eons Park Preserve will also include in their donation money that would be set aside for different maintenance issues, okay? So I wouldn't necessarily say anything's concrete on that. There's just been some preliminary discussions that's been a part of the discussion. I think that's a long-term issue as to whether it creates an increase in services for first responders. I think that's not a lot different than any other business or even recreational facility that comes into our community, right? With anytime you build a new subdivision, anytime you have any growth, and again, I'm not picking on our friends at Sun Behavioral, but there's been a significant increase to first responders with Sun Behavioral coming in, right? Which we all should have somewhat anticipated. So I think those will just be issues that kind of get addressed as they become issues. But I wouldn't say there's anything specific in this document that addresses any of that.
Along the same lines, I'm assuming there's probably going to be like restrooms and things like that. Will the police have the ability to lock those down after hours so there's not any kind of issues like we do at the other parks? Or is that going to be outside of our control since it's not owned by city property?
I think it would be dependent upon whether it's a city asset or not, with it being on city or Erlanger property. So like, for example, the dog park, if eventually we have like a little bathroom facility there, that would be no different than our bathroom at Silver Lake or our bathroom at Flagship. And if it's on Eons Preserve land, that's then up to Eons Preserve in order to maintain their property and police it as they see fit. That makes sense. It wouldn't be a responsibility of our police to maintain that building.
Yeah, but they would have to see if there's any emergency services if it is still in our city. So if they don't have the control to lock it, if it becomes a problem, that seems like it could become a problem.
Well, but that's, to Jack's point, that's no different than, a building being left open of one of our businesses or a home being left open from one of our residents. It would be
Yeah, I think from a practical matter, there wouldn't be any city dollars. There cannot be really any city dollars that would be used for any amenity that's outside city property, okay? So if there was a bathroom, let's say hypothetically, on SD1 land, and they had some agreement with Eons Preserve, Inc., I think that's their problem if that building becomes vandalized. I don't think that's ever going to be the city's problem. Now, because it's in the city limits, maybe a city police officer has to respond to it.
I'm not really worried about vandals. I'm worried more about people using the facilities to do drugs in, which would cause a safety concern. So that's usually one of the reasons they lock those kind of buildings up at night. So I think that would be a concern. I still am concerned about the independent, if you're on both sides. Like, I think that's still an issue because there'd be no way to not be having to make decisions between us and them and having to pick which one you're going to go with. That's just the nature of having the same, I don't know how to say it, but you're going to be putting yourself in conflict by having to decide between the two. So I think that's still an issue.
Can I go back to this Gatlin-Volker playground? Would that be something for toddlers, or would that be for more like 8 to 12-year-olds?
I like this. You write that into a memo. All right. Any other questions? All right. Do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Mr. Eckers, Ms. Wilson, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, motion carried. Have a